Hey there, it's me, your friendly neighborhood artist. I watched the Senate's impact on AI journalism because it's important to us artists, and it starts off firstly bringing up how that is excluded from Section 230, and to be honest, I didn't know what Section 230 is. So here it is, just kind of a rundown, that it basically says that Google and YouTube, like those are examples, are included in Section 230, which means that it cannot get in trouble for what the user posts, but AI can. There is so much potential for misuse, and they hallucinate. They can be unfair or harmful, and no one can be held accountable. If AI gets protection despite the problems that it has, it can and will release unfounded content and news. And who's to blame for releasing all of this misinformation? No one. And on top of that, if they aren't being held accountable, then how do we know if they'll actually do quality control? And you know how AI bros and NFT bros do. Make money any way you can. Lie, cheat, steal, and scrape, am I right? So Senator Blumenthal wrote up a fair but equal bill for AI in December. And the moment that these came in for voting,
all of the AI cheerleaders who say that AI is going to be wonderful, AI is going to be life-changing, it's going to be world-changing, it's going to be the best thing that has ever happened to the human race, or something to that effect. And then you have a group of people who have concerns. And they say, well, I don't know. I mean, what's AI going to do to jobs? What's AI going to mean for my privacy? What's AI going to mean for my kids? And here's the pattern I've noticed over a year. Almost everybody who takes the AI cheerleading stance is here, in this building. And then when you leave the confines of this building and the lobbyists who inhabit it, when you go out and actually talk to real people working real jobs, you find the second set of concerns. I have yet to talk to a Missourian who is an enthusiastic, no-holds-barred cheerleader for AI. Not one. There probably is someone somewhere, but they haven't talked to me yet. What I hear over and over and over from workaday people who are working their job, raising their kids, trying to just, keep it going, what they say over and over is, I don't know about this. I don't know what this is going to mean for my kids online. I don't know what this is going to mean for my job in the future. I don't know. I have concerns. And they also usually say, I sure really wish that Congress would do something about this. And that leads me to the second observation, the second pattern that I have noticed in this last year. And that is, while there's a lot of talk about the need for Congress to act, we're beginning to slip into a familiar pattern whereby the biggest companies who increasingly control this technology, just like they've controlled social media, don't want us to act and are willing to expend any amount of resources, money, time, and effort, influence, to make sure we don't. Senator Blumenthal mentioned our bipartisan bill that would just, a very modest bill, if I may say, that would just clarify that AI-generated tools are not entitled to the Section 230 protections. Very modest. Do you know, when we had AI executives sitting right here in this room and we asked them directly, do you think Section 230 covers your model in your industry? They said no. So Senator Blumenthal and I wrote it up and said, well, good. This is consensus. Let's pass this. I went to the floor to try to pass this bill in December and immediately was blocked and objected to. The same story we've been hearing for years from the technology companies. It's always theoretically, we should put safeguards in place for real people. But when you come to do it, it's, no, we can't. That's too soon. It's too much. It's too quick. And what it really means is it would interfere with our profits. And that's what they really mean.
like, that's what I've said since AI became a thing. This is about money. This isn't about fairness. This isn't about helping humanity. This is literally about making money and using people's data without their consent. And those are Senator Blumenthal's words, not mine. I agree there's been the thing is AI's duped people into thinking that they can't do things like write or draw or anything without AI, because people think now that it's the answer to everything with all their problems. Like, there was something with, what's his name? Some Ordinary Games, Mudahar, where he just did an hour-long video, and I was watching it. And in that hour-long video, this mama guy who does CSAM type videos, he actually went to ChatGPT instead of looking up on Google what the answer was, because he's stupid. And let me tell you, if you're using ChatGPT to answer your questions before Google, you're an idiot. You're just an idiot. Like, I'm not talking about, like, if you're looking up the law or doctors or, like, anything, you're dumb. You're just objectively dumb. If you're using ChatGPT for finding out law questions or finding out if you have a diagnosis of something, I would tell you to stop it. Like, don't ask it anything that has substantial, like something that is necessary. You know what I mean? Like something that's important for anything. Like, you can ask it something that might be from the past, but you gotta know that it's gonna probably hallucinate a little bit. And the thing is, people want to keep AI around because of the money it generates. And the senators are pretty much on board with these companies not being able to monopolize all these news sources while being able to steal directly from the original sources themselves. And you know what? Good. I'm glad that the law is on our side. Now that data is an expensive commodity, AI is misusing it while saying fair use. All these AI companies have to be held accountable for taking data from small people and big companies and saying, you posted it, too bad, just isn't good enough. It's just not a good enough excuse for me to hear from, like, billionaires who's making so much money while I'm sitting here being like, hey, you just took my picture off the internet that I sell a print for $30. Maybe you pay me $30 to use it. The thing is, to keep quality, healthy discourse and a good market, they need to start paying for these things that they've taken without permission. Daniel Coffey had a lot to say about AI, and she had some of the same beliefs that I had and some of the same concerns that I also have.
Reporting, we cannot have an informed electorate and functional society. Generative artificial intelligence, GAI, could create an even greater risk to the information ecosystem with inaccuracies and hallucinations if not curbed with quality content produced by news publications. This risk will become worse as the economic decline of our industry accelerates. Our revenue has been cut in half over the last 10 years. Demand for our content has grown the same amount over the same period of time in the opposite direction. This lack of return is because dominant distributors of our news content are scraping publications, websites, and selling portions for engagement and personal information to target users with advertising. Over the last several years, there have been countless studies, investigations, and litigation by the DOJ and the FTC in the past 2 administrations that have found anti-competitive conduct by the monopoly distributors of news content. This proves the direct nexus between anti-competitive conduct and the steep decline of financial revenue returned to news publications, leading to a dramatic shortfall of the revenue that's needed to invest in news gathering and hiring journalists. We are deeply appreciative of Senators Klobuchar and Kennedy for their relentless leadership on the Journalism Competition and Preservation Act. An analysis that the NMA commissioned in cases before the courts, it shows evidence of copyright-protected expressive works being taken from behind paywalls without authorization and used repeatedly in model training, processing, and display. In addition to massive amounts of content used in training, GAI output results to users' inquiries often contain summaries, excerpts, and even full verbatim copies of articles written and fact-checked by human journalists. These outputs compete in the same market with the same audience, serving the same purpose as the original articles that feed the algorithms in the first place. Because these uses go far beyond the guardrails set by the courts, this is not considered fair use under current copyright law. To be clear, news publishers are not opposed to AI. We want to help developers realize their potential in a responsible way. NMA's members are by and large willing to come to the table and discuss licensing terms and licensing solutions to facilitate reliable, updated access to trustworthy and authoritative content. A constructive solution will benefit all interested parties and society at large and avoid protracted uncertainty in the court. In addition to encouraging such licensing practices, there are other issues that Congress can address around transparency, copyright, accountability, and competition that we have submitted for the record. We simply cannot let the free press be disregarded at the expense of these new and exciting technologies. Both can exist in harmony, and both can...
Yeah, I think that both can exist, but it can't be by taking my data and other people's data and selling it at a premium without offering anything back, especially from the person they stole it from. The world works on being able to be honest with one another, and taking something that way where it only benefits you isn't how you be honest with the world, nor is gaining money only for yourself and stomping out everyone that you are so reliant on. If the world wanted to, like, we could stomp out AI by making its copyright content laws way more strict. And she's right that fair use is not what AI is doing, it's just plagiarizing. And Jeff Jarvis, my god, he is this pro AI guy. You can just tell when you look at him. He talks about helping illiteracy, helping writers get ideas, and said that the Modern Language Association concluded that AI could help students with wordplay, analyzing writing, and overcoming writer's block. Like, the thing is I do agree with this, is that when you look at the things that it could do, and you look at the things that AI can do, and then you look at the things that AI is most likely going to be used for, it's not going to be used to help people be more literate. It's going to help people take the lazy way out. Like, for example, people are generating entire whole books with ChatGPT. They're not even actually writing anything. They're just getting people to write they're getting ChatGPT to write the entire whole chapter for them. It's ridiculous. You can't convince me that someone's going to be more literate by that. And the thing about Jeff Jarvis is I knew that he was an AI bro when he brought out how news reacted to radio. Because it's the same thing when people say
from each other. The question before us today is whether the machine has similar rights to read and learn. Third, a century ago, when print media faced their first competitor, radio, newspapers were inhospitable, limiting broadcasters to 2 daily updates, excluding radio from congressional press galleries, and even forbidding on-air commentators from discussing an event until 12 hours after the fact. They accused radio of stealing content and revenue. They warned radio would endanger democracy, as they have since to television, the internet, and now AI.
That AI content is just like cameras were introduced, and I just want to throw the whole man away. Now, there's also Roger Lynch, and he said it best that AI is literally taking our human content, spitting it back at us, and being sold for a profit. It's a crime to do that. He also mentioned that the fair use analogy they all use is false, and it covers certain parts, but not if it all is causing too much adverse effects on the market. Fair use is not intended to simply enrich technology companies that prefer not to pay. And that's like their whole thing, is like they don't want to pay because they think that's going to hurt their product. But we don't care, and we shouldn't care. This is not the cyberpunk universe where the only author who is the known author is an AI.
The Swedish Academy Award for Literature has announced its latest recipient, Virginia Grantchester, citing her most recent book, In the Shade of an Apple Tree, as a treasure of this generation. Grantchester, who is an AI created by Raven Microcybernetics, has been lauded for several of her works over the years. Her first novel, Requiem for a Samurai, which was published in 70 languages simultaneously, sold over 3 million copies. In the Shade of an Apple Tree is a drama set in 20th century Ireland and is already considered a masterpiece of post-collapse literature.
And they also had this interesting bit of information that while these companies are scraping, it's not fair use because of the lack of attribution to the original creators. If these companies hold a monopoly and then they're not offering compensation to the original creators, are they actually going to be able to hold the quality that they're going to be able to claim that they're holding? This rounds back to, why do people pay for assets? Because they want to use the assets in their works. Why can't AI make the same promises? Because, like, this was always like a human thing before. Well, you want to use this thing made by me? Well, okay, you're going to have to give me some money for that because this is mine and not yours. And someone goes, okay, I'll just pay you the thing. And now people go like, well, it's AI, so it's free for everyone. No, it's not. You sell it as a product, so it's not free for everyone. If that was the case, then why is ChatGPT 4 a premium and ChatGPT 3 is for free, right? Why is Midjourney for profit? Why is Stable Diffusion for profit? And people will be like, well, no, you can download it on your computer for free. Yes, I understand that, but there is a paid version on their website. And I can't stand Jeff Jarvis. Why do these guys keep bringing up stuff from before we were all alive, trying to say this is how it is and this is how it goes, and how this thing that happened 100 years ago should be acceptable now? Get out of here. When new tech comes into the world, we don't just allow it to do things without other things. Like, we don't just allow tech to exist without making new rules. Okay? There's a reason why there are some rules when you have a smartphone. And there's a reason why smartphones are free now. Before they were so expensive. I mean, can you imagine when smartphones first became a thing, you had to pay per text? Get out of here. Now my grandfather has a free phone because he's an old person. And it makes more sense for him to have a smartphone. My other grandfather didn't have one though. He refused. Oh, it's snowing. And I knew that Jeff Jarvis was going to be this guy jumping down on, I don't want the big corpos to have to pay licensing fees. They have the money. They have the money. I don't care if OpenAI or Stable Diffusion or any of these things are like a charity, no, or whatever, non-profit. No, they're not. No, they're not. No, they're not. They just say that, but they're not. I don't believe that. It's a scam. The notion that the tech industry is saying that it's too complicated to license from a diverse array of content owners just doesn't stand up. It's dumb. And someone on the board said it's completely possible to pay people. Joshua Hawley has a way of being very passionate right before he leaves.
And it leads me to ask the question, I mean, why shouldn't we expand that regime outward? I mean, why shouldn't we say that anybody whose data is ingested and then regurgitated by generative AI, whether that's their name, their image, their likeness, why shouldn't they be able also to have a right to compensation? I mean, our copyright laws are quite broad, I think justly so. So, why shouldn't, I'm very sympathetic to this argument for journalists and content creators for whom content creation is a career. But there are lots of other folks for whom it's not a career, but they create things, they have work product, they post things online. Why shouldn't they also be protected? It seems to me that they should. I mean, it seems to me that every American ought to have some rights here in their data and in their content. And the sort of regime you've described, I mean, these are ordinary Americans already protected by copyright law. It seems that we should find a way to enforce that. And the way that you've described in terms of clarifying fair use seems to me to be a potential path forward. Mr. Leggett, let me shift gears and ask you about something that you said. It's in your written testimony, and you mentioned it too just a moment ago about this video clip, one of many, unfortunately, with the broadcast TV anchors that was manipulated, and we've seen this is proliferating. The New York Times did a report just a couple of days ago about similar manipulation of images. In this case, not news reporters. This was just the Times reported on, for instance, I think a doctor. Online trolls, I'm quoting from the report now, took screenshots of a doctor from an online feed of her testimony she was giving at a parole board hearing and edited the images with AI tools, in that case, to make them sexually explicit. Completely fake. This is the classic deep fake, but obviously extremely harmful, extremely invasive, and then posted them online. I mean, used these images, created these images, and then in this case, put them on 4chan. So my question to you is, shouldn't there be some sort of federal ban on deep fake images? Certainly of a sexually explicit nature, but shouldn't every American have the right to think, with appropriate First Amendment exceptions for parody, but shouldn't we have the right to think that, listen, you're not just if you put a picture on Instagram of your child, it's not going to be scraped up by somebody, some company or some individual using company software to generate a sexually explicit image, or in the case of these news anchors, to put literally words in their mouth.
You are absolutely right to prioritize this issue. For local broadcasters, all our local personalities have is the trust of their audiences. And the second that is undermined by disinformation and these technologies, these deep fakes are going to put all of that on steroids, it is just more noise. And I think we have seen the steady decline in our public discourse as a result of the fact that the public can't separate fact from fiction. So absolutely, this is an area that demands your attention, this committee's attention. There are certainly some elements of this that in the expressive context that the committee needs to be mindful of. Certainly, we've aligned ourselves with the Motion Picture Association, and in the creative context, some of the potential carve-outs that they have flagged. But this is an issue that is existential for local news. It's existential for our democracy. And so we absolutely support this committee's attention to it.
And I would just say in closing, Mr. Chairman, to your point, Mr. Leggett, the reason that the public can't separate fact from fiction is in the case of these images. I mean, they look like the real thing. I mean, they're just indistinguishable. I mean, it's not a matter of, the public, they're not paying attention. They are paying attention. That's the problem, is that they look absolutely real. And whether you're a broadcaster or a doctor or a mom or whatever, I just think the idea that at any moment you live in the fear that some image of me out there could be manipulated and turned into something completely else, ruin my reputation. And what's your alternative? Go file a legal suit and fight that out? And I mean, most people don't have money for that. This just seems to me, Mr. Chairman, like a situation we've got to address, and quickly. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Hawley. Senator Klobuchar.
Agree with what Senator Hawley just said.
Expressing that Jeff Jarvis's idea of fair use is as open as it could possibly be. Just one follow-up on fair use, since we're going back and forth on fair use. That's him. You're talking about limited readings or broader readings, but correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding is that currently the broadest reading possible is the one that these tech companies, AI companies, are adopting, to which their view that none of your content should be compensatable in any way, right? Yeah, I'm just concerned that this is going to be, if these AI companies, which are just really big tech companies, again, if their reading of fair use prevails, is that fair use is going to be the exception that swallowed the rule. It's the mouse that ate the elephant. I mean, we're not going to have any copyright law left. I mean, it won't be a matter of, well, it's a little too broad. It won't exist. It just won't exist. And that can't possibly be right. I mean, to see an entire body of law just destroyed, I mean, that can't possibly be right. They're quite literally taking content and saying, nuh-uh. And Jarvis just keeps on going on sounding like a fool, saying it's the users. But it's literally both. Everyone is responsible. The fact that he keeps going on and on about it being a tool, and the problem with bringing up the old argument in quotations is that you really can't defend yourself with AI. They are plagiarizing by default. Anything you type or generate plagiarizes. A printing press, a radio, a camera doesn't plagiarize by existing. I don't know why people want to use old stuff to compare it to AI just because it's similar. It's not similar. Overall, they went over that AI needs to be held accountable for the stuff that's being released by its users. They need to choose reimbursement, and that's already happening overseas. The fair use rule is pretty straightforward. It's not fair use if it messes with the market for copyright content. A market that is pushing for people to make something new and transform the content, not to regurgitate it after theft. Fair use shouldn't even need to be used when saying whether or not the work is yours. If it's AI, it's not yours, and that's the end of it. I hope that my explanation kind of helped people understand what that whole thing was, because I know it was a lot to listen to. I tried to make it palatable, but man, that Jeff Jarvis guy, I just want to shake him. Thanks for listening, and see you in the next one.